I'm Dedra Jize, the Geriatric Care Manager with Litherland, Kennedy and Associates, a California estate planning and elder care law firm. I'm here with Tami Anastasia. She is a dementia consultant and educator and author of her new book, The Essential Strategies for Dementia Care for the Dementia Caregiver. Thank you, Tami, for coming and talking with me today.
Dedra, it's a pleasure, and thank you for having me.
You're welcome. You know what? I just can't say more about this book that I have read.
Thank you.
I am excited about it. It's a new way for caregivers to have something in their house to refer to.
Yes.
Now, you also have part of the title says learning to pace yourself. What do you mean by that?
So when you're a dementia caregiver, it can be a very long journey, and it can be a very exhausting and an overwhelming journey. And there's a lot of behavior changes in the loved one who has dementia. And so I wanted to provide a tool, I wanted to provide strategies, I wanted to provide a guide or a book that will help you pace yourself on this journey and conserve your energy. And my goal is to have caregivers survive this journey so it's not at the expense of their physical, mental, and emotional well-being. So I came up with the acronym PACE. P stands for permission to trial and error. One of the best ways to learn what to do correctly is sometimes we have to learn from mistakes. Mistakes are often opportunity to learn from. What doesn't work will help us figure out what might work. So pacing yourself, P stands for give yourself permission to trial and error. Mistakes are not failures. Again, we learn by doing. A stands for acknowledge their reality. When somebody gets a diagnosis of dementia, there's going to be changes in their thinking, changes in their behavior. And it's super, super important that we, quote unquote, meet them where they are. Meaning we have to learn how to communicate and connect with them on their new level. They're going to have an altered version of reality. And so how do we communicate with people, which is one of the biggest complaints I get. And so I provide you with ways to communicate with people and how to process your own feelings as you go through this journey. Anger, frustration, feeling overwhelmed and exhausted. So I talk about how to use those feelings as a gauge and to empower yourself. C stands for compassionate care, not only for your loved one, but for you as well. Self-care is very, 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 very difficult for caregivers taking care of somebody with dementia. So I spent a lot of time in this section on how to be compassionate with yourself, how to deal with the caregiver guilt that often just overrides this whole journey, and how to diffuse it and minimize the degree of guilt you struggle with. And then again, how to provide that compassionate care to your loved one. So it's for both you as well as your loved one. And then E stands for empower yourself. And there's several ways to do that. In this section, I talk about identify your triggers, what can set you off, as well as identifying the triggers of your loved one, what can set them off. But this section also talks a lot about what to anticipate coming down the road. This disease, as you know, is progressive. So it's only going to get worse over time. So this is in this section, I line up the ducks, what to expect. And I provide questions. So you're going to need in-home care, or we're going to have to place them. And I talk about the questions when you're interviewing and what the answer should be, the questions for hospice and what the answer should be. So I try to equip you all the way from the beginning of this journey, all the way through until the end of the journey.
Well, that's what I found reading the book is that it does start with the diagnosis and it takes you all the way through. And I think where the book shines is, first of all, it's written in just easy to understand language.
Yes.
And with a lot of examples, solutions to very common issues that you have seen over the many, decades in your practice.
Yes, right? Yes. So it's funny you say that, because I spent a lot of time thinking about my audience. My audience is caregivers who are going to be stressed out. And I want to provide a tool that would be easy to read. And the way the book is laid out is you don't even have to go from the beginning to the end of the book, right? You could just go exactly to the issue that's going on or the concern you have and open it up, table of contents, and boom, you could just go exactly to the source that you need to go to in that immediate moment. But I also spent a lot of time. I wanted to make the font large enough so they weren't having to, it wasn't difficult to read. And the way we laid out this book was, again, in a simple format so that the caregiver who is maxed out, stressed out, burned out can open this book up. The information's right there. It's easy to process. It's easy to read, and you're equipped with a lot of tools.
Right. And that's the other thing about the book is that it is not one that you read through.
Yeah.
Got it. Put it on the shelf and start your next book. Well, you might start a next book, but it is one that you will go back to because it starts with the diagnosis and all the way through that everyone knows that there's stages of dementia, that where are you? What are your issues? They're going to change. They're going to be flexible. I mean, it's not like you pick up a child rearing book and read it once and go, got it. I got the baby, read the book. I'm good to go. No, you keep going back to it.
Yeah. Repetitive questions. Let's use that one as an example because that one's often a big, heavy issue. So you go to the section on how to deal with repetitive questions, and I have 20, 15, 10 different ways to try to deal with repetitive questions. But what else I talk about is also try to explain to the caregiver why this change might be going on, why you may be struggling with a behavior, why they may repeat questions. So it's not only do you have strategies, but I also try to help the reader understand, wow, this is something my loved one has no control over. This is how the disease is affecting them. And there again helps them detach and not take it so personally what's happening. So again, I spent a lot of time thinking, what are all the angles that would provide someone with this information that would be validating, normalizing what they're going through, reassuring, and equip them with skills and strategies on how to deal with the person who's changing constantly, whether they're changing physically, whether they're changing emotionally, behaviorally, and cognitively.
And the book is to augment other ways of support, learning, because being a caregiver of someone with dementia is very complex, very fluid. And I can't emphasize too much for clients of mine to get into a support group.
This
may be the one that you can reach out at midnight. But a regular support group. Is that this? Do you suggest the same?
Yeah, absolutely. My book's a tool, right? And it's one more resource they have at their fingertips. And support groups are another resource to have at their fingertips. And what's lovely about support groups, as you know, I facilitate 5 of them myself. And I'll tell you what is magical about support groups for me is to watch the camaraderie and watch the sharing and the support that is established, and you realize you're not alone. So my book is a tool to have by your side and make you not feel alone. And then having a support group is another way of not feeling so alone and feeling connected to other people. And a lot of times we laugh when somebody comes into the support group and they're new and they'll say, I don't know if anybody has ever experienced this, and then they share it. And then we're like, okay, share of hands, how many have been through that, right? So the support groups I can't say enough about because of the value of that connection and everybody sharing, and the support to me is invaluable.
Excellent. So can you let people know how they can order a book?
Okay.
And maybe even how to reach out to you if they're interested in one of your support groups, because nowadays, support groups, you're local to Santa Clara County, but
Yes,
it's
yeah.
possible, I guess.
Yeah, and now with the support groups, because we're not doing them in person still, we're doing them via webinar. So I have people from all different states join the support groups. I have people from New York, Tennessee, Texas, Chicago. So that's the beauty now of being able to do all my work online. So the book you can order on Amazon. Again, Essential Strategies for the Dementia Caregiver, Learning to Pace Yourself. And then the support groups, you can just go to my website and you can sign up to join a support group through TamiAnastasia.com. So again, it's TamiAnastasia.com.
Great. Well, thank you, Tami. I appreciate you spending your time with us. We are going to actually be doing some more of these, so stay tuned. We're going to delve more into dementia as the caregivers trying to approach and deal with different issues that arise, how to handle different things that come up, and just some general education. So stay tuned. There will be more of these videos for your learning, because you're not in this alone, correct?
Correct. Yep. You've got a lot of support out there, and anything we can do to provide you with help and support, we're here to do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dedra.